China is beating the war drums again. They're using civilian ships to practice invading Taiwan. They're building a sci-fi floating island and they're ramping up naval deployments. All of this has reignited the biggest geopolitical question of this century. Will China invade Taiwan? Let's look at their moves on the ground, or rather at sea. Let me pull up some satellite pictures for you. These were taken throughout this summer. They show the Chinese military practicing how to invade Taiwan. Now, do you notice something off about them? The ships that you see here are not warships. These are civilian vessels. We're talking about your car ferries and cargo ships. More than 100 of them took part in these drills. They practiced landing at a beach in China's Guangdong province. The obvious question is why? Why are civilian vessels part of a drill? We get using Chinese warships to invade Taiwan, but why civilian boats? Well, here's what a former Taiwanese admiral thinks.
Yes, is that they are trying to develop a kind of large number of the small amphibious landing ships supported by civilian sector, and during the wartime, they will conduct the multi-point small amphibious landing operations.
That's the obvious theory. If China wants to take over Taiwan, it must land soldiers there. How many? Experts say they will need as many as 1 million soldiers, anywhere between 300,000 to 1 million. That's how many soldiers China must transport to Taiwan. And how many can they transport? Right now, only 20,000. That is where the civilian vessels come in. They can help increase China's landing capacity. They can transport more troops and supplies, and this idea is not new. Civilian boats were used in the Second World War too. Around 800 of them. They rescued British soldiers from Dunkirk. So China's tactics are not unprecedented, but they do signal the intent to invade. And their preparations do not end here, not with these drills. Like I said, China is also building a sci-fi island. Think of it as a moving fortress in the sea. On paper, it's supposed to be a science and research facility, but listen to the specifications. The whole thing will weigh 78,000 tons. That's around the same as China's largest warship, the Fujian carrier. While ships have one hull, this one will have two. It will be mobile and self-sustaining. 238 people can live on this island for 4 months. No resupplies, no outside contact. They will be self-sufficient. And here's the most interesting part. This structure will have special panels on the outside, panels that can repel nuclear shock waves. Intriguing, isn't it? Why do you want to protect a science facility from nuclear blasts? Why has China made it shock-proof? Because their real intentions may have nothing to do with science at all. This is more like an upgrade on aircraft carriers. China can use these floating artificial islands to project power. Not immediately, though. This island will enter service only in 2028. Which brings us to the question we started with. Is China preparing to invade Taiwan? Well, there are 3 factors to consider. Number 1, the military preparation is not complete yet. China doesn't have enough landing ships to ferry soldiers. Even civilian boats may not be enough. So to invade now is a big risk. Factor number 2, while China is preparing, so is the other side. Taiwan is arming itself to mount a defense. This week, the US approved more weapons for Taipei, an air defense system worth $700 million. And it's not just Taiwan. Other US allies in the region are also arming. Japan has announced a $60 billion defense budget. $60 billion. Australia is set to get nuclear submarines, and the Philippines is getting F-16 jets and Indian BrahMos missiles. Now, we don't know if these countries will actively defend Taiwan, but they're certainly arming to mount a challenge. Which brings us to the final factor, and that is the trade risk. You see, China is dependent on global trade. Around 73% of their oil is imported from outside. Around 20% of their GDP is made up of exports. If that trade stops, China's economy will choke. And Xi Jinping knows this. He has secured alternate energy supplies from Russia. He's invested heavily in green energy. He's also trying to build a powerful domestic market. Despite all of this, China cannot survive without trading. If they invade Taiwan now, their global trade may be halted, either through blockades or sanctions. So to answer the first question, it wouldn't be logical for Xi Jinping to invade Taiwan now. But logic often does not dictate such decisions, and the intent to strike at some point is hard to miss.
I was a revolutionary. I became a ruler. I claimed to protect my people. I terrorized them instead. I built palaces. I started wars. I lost everything. Some called me a defender of Arab pride. History remembers me as a dictator. Who am